chapter 20, beginning with verse 27. If you want to follow along with me, there are a few Bibles. Some Sadducees, those who say there is no resurrection, came to Jesus and asked him a question. Teacher, Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies, leaving a wife but no children, the man shall marry the widow and raise up children for his brother, the first child. Now, there were 7 brothers. The first married and died childless. Then the second and the third married her, and so in the same way all 7 brothers married her and died childless. Probably they're trying to get her pregnant. No, it doesn't say that. Finally, the woman also died. In the resurrection, therefore, the Sadducees asked Jesus, whose wife will the woman be? For the 7 had married her. And Jesus said to them, those who belong to this age marry and are given in marriage, but those who are considered worthy of a place in that age and in the resurrection from the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage. Indeed, they cannot die anymore because they are like angels and are children of God, being children of the resurrection. And the fact that the dead are raised, Moses himself showed in the story that the dead are raised, in the story about the bush, where he speaks of the Lord as the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Now, he is a God not of the dead, but of the living. For to him all of them are alive. Then some of the scribes answered, Teacher, you've spoken well. For they no longer dared to ask him another question. Thus ends the reading of the word. I saw the movie Gravity on Friday. And it's a story about, eventually, about a lone woman trying to survive the challenge survive in the most challenging, terrifying wilderness that one can imagine. She is in space. Now, what's interesting about this, and it's important, and the makers of the film endeavor to make us mindful that in space there is no sound. In space there is nothing but silence. They try to make us understand as all of this horrible debris attacks the space shuttle traveling at 50,000 miles per hour and destroys the space shuttle, as Sandra Bullock and George Clooney are outside of it in their space suits, hoping that they don't get trammeled by this debris. The only thing we hear in the film are the voices of George Clooney and Sandra Bullock. The only thing we hear is their breathing, because there is no sound. There is no sound of this debris hitting and ripping the shuttle to shreds. All we hear is their breathing and their voices talking to one another. Because inside their spacesuits, there's gravity, there's pressure. As the story continues, there is a scene where Sandra Bullock is in the Russian space capsule, and don't even ask me how she got there. In the Russian space capsule, and she realizes, today I am going to die. Today is the day I the most profound line in this film was her next line. I can't even pray because no one ever showed me how. You know, that's not a line that was written by the author for effect. I believe that's the line that is a confessional line on the part of the author. I believe that that line in this story comes from the author's heart. The one who wrote the story is saying, I don't even know how to pray because no one ever showed me. Outside this sanctuary, there are so many people who have never been given the opportunity, given the chance, or given the invitation to understand how easy it is to have a conversation with God. How easy it is to pray. Now, a lot of you are saying, I don't know how to pray really well. There's nothing well about it. And you all prayed this morning. How many times have you prayed this morning? Twice already. Do you know that? Yeah, you prayed 3 times. You prayed the congregational prayer, you sang the Lord's Prayer, and you prayed the prayer after the offering. You prayed 3 times. You haven't prayed. There are a lot of people out there who don't even know that a conversation with God can be a simple conversation with God. The profundity of that statement to me was her saying that she had never been shown. As it turns out, she doesn't know. Thank you. Otherwise, the story would be a lot shorter. But what we realize suddenly, when she comes back to earth, is that the only place there is sound is where there is gravity. The only place where there is sound is where there is gravity. And we are delighted just by the trickle of water around her. Sound. Sound. The sound of a bird. Sound. Now, that's important to me because one of the most important words in Scripture, and it appears about 378 times in Scripture. I checked it out. It's a word that Jesus uses. It's a word that all the prophets use. It is the first word in the Shema Israel. What is it? Hear. Hear. The first word in the numero uno prayer in Judaism is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. Hear, O Israel. Hear, O Israel. Jeremiah, Isaiah, the major prophets, even the minor prophets, start out their prophesying with the word hear. Jesus uses it and he says, all of those who have ears to hear, hear me. Hear what I say. Listen to what I say. Not listen, hear. There's a difference between listen and hear. Am I correct? Yeah. We can all look like we're listening. Right? But are we hearing? In this encounter and exchange that Jesus has today with the Sadducees, he has arrived at the temple in Jerusalem. He has made a very unglamorous and very clamorous entrance into the temple by, knocking everything over and really ticking everybody off, okay? Not only that, he comes back day after day, and he's in the temple teaching. Now today, it happens that the Sadducees, who are the wealthy priests of Judaism, that is, they are the rich aristocracy of priests. They're the privileged priests. They're the ones who come from wealthy families and wealthy backgrounds, etc. They are called David's priests. They have a difference of opinion. They're also called by Josephus, who is a Roman historian. They are called by Josephus the philosophical priests. That is, they are intellectual priests. They talk philosophically about life and about God's intentions for human beings. But they are also the group of priests, or the group of intellectuals who do not believe in angels or the resurrection, which puts them on the opposite side of opinion and theological opinion from the Pharisees, who are the law, the legal minds of the religion. They do believe in angels, and they do believe in the resurrection. So today, the Sadducees have come to test Jesus. And they want to catch him. They want to give him a riddle that he can't answer. And their riddle is based in the law. The Levirate marriage law says that if a man dies and dies childless, his wife has not borne him a son, then if he has a brother, the brother has to marry the widow and make a son, at least one, for the deceased brother. That's a true law. That's in Deuteronomy. And the Sadducees are trying to test Jesus with that law. Forgive me, I'm going to segue for a second, okay? How many of you, when you were little children, were ever told the joke, Mississippi is a very long word, M-I-S-S-I-S-S-I-P-P-I. How do you spell it in two letters? Before we had two-letter initials for states, and before we had zip codes, this was a real mind twister, particularly for moi. My older brother, the rat, came to me and he said, here's a riddle for you, Amanda. M-I-S-S-I-S-S-I-P-P-I is a very long word. How do you spell it in two letters? Hours. I spent hours cranking my head, trying to figure out the answer to that riddle. When what you need to do is take that riddle. It's all about syntax and semantics, and the point I'm trying to make is that the Jesus harassment is all about syntax. So if you divide it into two sentences, M-I-S-S-I-S-S-I-P-P-I is a very long word, period. How do you spell it in two letters? Good. Say it again loud. I-T. Right. Jesus. Oh. So some of you didn't know that riddle. Okay, so what this passage is about Jesus making a decision to answer not the question that was asked. He decides not to do let me see. For me, I'd say, I picked the brother out of the seven that I like the best. If it were me. But it wasn't me. And Jesus said that's not the discussion. This is not the subject for discussion. Because in life, beyond life, in our life beyond life, in the resurrection, there are no laws that apply. There are no laws that are the earthly laws that human beings live by that apply to the resurrection. And he zaps the Sadducees with the fact that, and they're not ready for this at all, when he says to them that God is a God not of the dead but of the living. And he quotes their own scripture to them. in life. When Jesus speaks, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are long dead. But when he quotes to the Sadducees that Moses is the one who said, God is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, God of the living, he is saying that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are resurrected from the dead. That they have been resurrected by God because God is their God. You see what I know it's a riddle. You see what I'm trying to say? Jesus is saying the resurrection is the making of God. It is not the making of human beings. The resurrection has nothing to do with the mind of human beings. The resurrection isn't just about Jesus. Now, we're all pretty confident in that one, okay? Because when we say our affirmations of faith, we say, God raised Jesus from the dead. We're not too sure about the rest of us. The promise is clear. What Jesus is saying to the Sadducees and everyone else who has ears to hear on this All Saints' Day, the resurrection of the dead is sure. That when we die, we are not the same. We are different. And the laws that apply on earth are not those that apply in our resurrected lives. Nevertheless, we are alive in God. We are alive in God. So when I picture Sandra Bullock in that Russian module, as she says, today I'm going to die, I say no. Today you are not going to die. Today you are going to live in another way. Embrace the resurrection. It empowers us to live this life today. It empowers us to live with all of the energy we can and without fear of what is to come.